This is the Storied Outdoors, a podcast somewhere between Lewis and Tolkien and Lewis and Clark, finding clarity in the stories we tell and the adventures that shape us. Welcome to the Storied Outdoors. My name is Brad Hill, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and co-host Brian Gill, and we are excited to welcome Damion Bankhead to the show today. He's a wildlife and nature portrait photographer based there in Birmingham. His work goes beyond just capturing images. It's about revealing beauty both around us and within us. Damion's journey into photography started young, seeing the world in pictures before he even had a camera in hand. His passion took a defining turn on a simple hike when he captured a Carolina wren in full song, a moment that connected him to the birding community and set him on a path of having his work published in Amateur Photographer and Alabama the Beautiful. With a background that spans a whole lot of things, from fitness, he was in the Army, he's in law enforcement. He's always also a musician. That caught my eye when I saw some guitars on some of your posts and on your website. Damion's always been drawn to storytelling through his lens, and he aims to help people see themselves and the world through fresh eyes. So today we'll dive into some of his adventures, his approach to natural portraits, and the moments that have sort of shaped him in his creative journey. So, man, welcome to the show today, Damion.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
Damion, recently you and I got coffee together and just kind of hung out a little bit and nerded out over some camera gear and some photography stuff. And it was so great to sit down with you face to face. I know we're on Zoom today, but man, thank you for being here today and sharing with us a little bit about your story. And just we love to tell these stories of people that are local, the people that maybe are not as famous as somebody that's on TV or something like that. I mean, we find that these stories of people from every day are the most compelling in some ways. And so, man, thank you for sharing with us. And just, man, right off the bat, I want to talk about photography. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is like I've started following your photography, and you capture some of the most beautiful birds. And it's not just like exotic birds. You do a fantastic job of capturing everyday birds, but making them come alive on through film. And like I think I told you, if I can capture the best picture of that bird, I feel like I'm doing it for the glory of God, to be able to show that's a beautiful creation. So like, let's dive into photography. Like, where did this love of photography come from?
So I've always first of all, thanks for the kind words. But I've always kind of had a thing for photography. I always had a camera. Never had like a really nice camera, but I've always had some kind of camera. Um, I've always been into like making little videos, shooting content, that kind of stuff. And I didn't know of it even as a kid. I was told that I used to walk around, doing this little frame thing, and it kind of makes sense now because this is it's still kind of a newfound thing. So this wildlife photography stuff, I've only been doing it not even 2 years now. So it's still pretty new for me. Um, but I've always had a camera, and I'm into fitness. So hiking is one of my favorite forms of exercise. Just getting out of nature and just taking off, just kind of reflecting, and that's where I feel like I'm actually closest to God. Like there's nothing out there but you, His canvas, and Him. And I mean, you can talk to Him, you can talk about things, you can cry. I've cried out of nature a few times, just things happening in life. But I'll tell you a story about that later on. Um, but I went on a hike, and one day I just decided to take one of my cameras, and I had this little kit lens. I think it was a 75 to 300 little kit
Mhm.
lens, nothing fancy. And I took a hike to Boulder Canyon, and where Library in the Forest, Vestavia Hills.
Yep. Yep.
So I took a hike there. I took that camera and this little Carolina. I was planning on taking pictures of like landscapes, so I took that lens, and I had a I don't remember the other kit lens. I think it was like an 18 to 55 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I took that with me as well. But this little Carolina wren landed, and it's singing, and it landed. I could probably touched it. it landed that close and it started singing. And when I moved, it didn't fly away. So I was like, okay. So I took a picture and I was like, this is kind of cool. Then it flew to another perch and took another picture, took it home and edited it. I posted it and people were like, wow, this is cool. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So I started doing it more often, took my camera every hike, taking pictures of more birds and things like that, started uploading it, getting a lot of feedback from people. And it kind of just snowballed into what it is now.
Did you teach yourself photography?
Yeah. And taught myself, like I told you, I'm a nerd, man. I like to read. When something sparks my curiosity, I'll go down all kinds of rabbit holes for hours, days, weeks. So photography, I spent a lot of time on, Universal University, YouTube,
Yeah.
YouTube videos. I started following like famous photographers that I kind of resonated with.
Hmm.
One guy that I really love is what's his name? Simone D'Entremont. He's
Hmm.
from Nova Scotia, Canada. And I followed him, and he has tons of videos for like beginners, and he
Hmm.
kind of helped me develop my skill. And he always said something about trying to develop your style, and I didn't know what that meant. But now I know what that means because people they tell me that they notice my pictures and they know that's my picture before they even see who posted it. So
Yeah,
I
you
kind
got a style.
of yeah.
Yeah. Man,
That's pretty cool.
now I want people to kind of understand whenever Damien says he's kind of into fitness, what that means. Like, I mean, if you're just listening to this, you don't realize how fit Damien is. Like I mean, I told Brad before we got on,
I didn't know I needed tickets to the gun show
I mean,
today.
I told Brad, I was like, I got the same lens as Damien, but man, there's just something different about the way he holds it and the way I hold it. My arms don't look that good holding that lens, man.
Yeah, fitness has been a it's been a huge part of my life, a huge part of my mental health as well.
Yeah.
Um, So I got into fitness. Actually, we'll back up. I was never like a big guy. Like all through school, I think I graduated high school at about 119 pounds. And then I joined the army at age 17. I had to sign these waivers, but I was about to be 18 so I could join. And I was actually, they said I was too small to join the army. So I had to kind of push my, date back, put on a little bit of weight. Um, but when I really got into fitness was my last deployment. I encountered a heartbreak, but instead of sulking, I nerded out. I started lifting, and then I started liking lifting, and started doing research on, what workouts to do. Started following men's physique athletes. At the time, men's physique had just started. That was around 2013, 2012, somewhere around there. And I followed these guys, saw how they ate. I learned how to eat, and that deployment I put on about 29 pounds. Came home,
Oh,
got got pretty serious about fitness. And it wasn't even what it was doing to me physically, which that's great, but how I felt and like you can say I've left a lot of demons on the gym floor. So
Mhm.
I don't I'm a really pretty laid back guy. So when I get angry or something, I just hold it. When I wait till gym time or wait till it's time to get out of nature, and that's where I kind of release that. Um, but fitness, it has saved me a few times,
Mhm.
especially being in law enforcement. That's how I cope with a lot of things. Law enforcement, dealing with homicides and family service issues, things like that. Uh, Fitness was it was always there. So when people weren't there, God was there, fitness was there. So
Mhm.
I could always go pick up a dumbbell and talk to God.
Mhm.
yeah. So you currently serving as a in law enforcement now?
No, I got a law enforcement in 2021.
Okay. Wow. So where I want to go back a little bit to where did you grow up? Where did you spend your childhood and then are you a
Decatur,
native
Alabama.
burnt? Okay.
It's about
Well,
an hour, 20 minutes from Birmingham.
yeah, yeah.
So I grew up there, hung out in Huntsville, Madison a lot as I was growing up. But yeah, those are my stomping grounds.
There you go. So a little Decatur. So now he's an Alabamian through and through.
Yep, all the way.
Mhm.
Nice, man. Um, talk a little bit about like I mean, you got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, you're into you know lifting weights, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Being a photographer takes a lot of time. How do you find time to also be a musician?
Um, it's weird. It's kind of so I start my days off with devotion, and I try to stay in constant communion with God all day. I even have this little deck of cards, and I actually send these to friends that say that they're trying to get stronger, build their faith. So they just have God's promises on them. So I'll after my devotion, I'll pull one of those cards. I'll take a picture of it, or I'll take the card with me, and I'll kind of dwell on that card all day, every day. It's just one of God's promises. One thing I always mention to God when I'm praying is sometimes I don't know which way to go because, like you said, I do a lot, and it sounds bad, but I was like, God, why did you give me all these gifts? Why can't I just be, tunnel vision on one thing? And somehow everything always just falls into place how it's supposed to. So I really can't answer that question to be honest with you. It's just creating that balance. I don't know, man. I just talking to God, and He just kind of, like I said, everything just falls how it's supposed to be. So I'll go to so up here where I work at Lifetime as a fitness coach. So I'll do that in the mornings is when I do my photography stuff, and if I get off early, I'll go do some photography stuff at like golden hour. And then usually when I'm editing is usually when I get some kind of musical idea. So I'll just start, tapping on my keyboard right here or pick up a guitar and that's just kind of how it works. If I'm not reading a book on my couch, I'm usually sitting right here doing something. So,
There you go. Well, I can, as somebody that loves both photography and music, I'm not as prolific as you guys of a photographer, but I see the correlation of or the connection of the art of photography and the art of making music
yeah,
and writing music. I understand how sometimes those things can work hand in hand,
yeah,
and one inspire the other. I think about it's difficult to get really close to a bird for
yeah,
the most part, right?
yeah,
Um, but when somebody like you captures a photo that draws you in closer to a bird than you would normally get, man, you really start to see the intricacies of the creativity of God
hmm
within. I don't know that there's another place out, quite like, whether it's waterfowl or it's, for me as ducks, as a duck hunter and getting close to a wood duck
that's
or any of these ducks, and you get close and you turn that duck in your hand and that light hits that thing and you just see just unbelievable color. And it really causes you to go, man, praise the Lord. Look at this is
no,
unbelievable.
it's crazy. It
And
is.
so, like bird photography, I think helps us get close to them when we can't and see them in light that we wouldn't normally see them, and causes, perhaps a song to arise, to join in with all creation and
Yeah,
declare the glory of the Lord, because I don't think much declares quite as loudly as birds the glory of the Lord, because they are so intricate in all of their colors and the fineness of each line of its feathers. They're really unbelievable. And on a wood duck, there's a funny part to me under its backside, under its wing that you never even see is this beautiful strip of like purple and lavender.
yeah,
But you don't hardly ever see it. I mean, I didn't notice it until I had killed the bird and was really, really inspecting it. And I was like, this is unbelievable. This is under here where nobody ever sees it. And God made that part beautiful too. That's really amazing to me. But I think that to me, that's one of the draws to, birding and bird photography is we get to see them up close and realize just how beautiful they are. It's not just that they can fly,
yeah.
which is
And
cool.
that's it's crazy you say that because I get a lot of comments, a lot of messages from like people who know me like personally. They're like, "Man, I saw your picture from a distance. Birds just look like black dots." So it's like,
Right.
oh, they're not. No, they're not.
No, they are
Taking these
incredible.
photos and showing people, things that they don't see every day, even just of common birds. Like people look at cardinals and are like, "Oh, it's just a red bird." But if you look at a cardinal up close, it's fascinating, man.
It really is.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the one of the recent ones you took with I think it was a backlit cedar waxwing.
Hmm.
Man, what a beautiful bird. I mean, they look like race cars when you slow it down and look at them. I mean, they got that little
Yeah,
yellow tip on them. They're gray. They got like a red part of the, I mean, it's like
that's
they
my
just,
favorite.
is that your favorite? Oh man, you did such a great job of that one. The wing you had it was like two in one photo. I think you had one on the branch and
Oh, and I was landing.
one was
Kind of
landing.
like cross.
Yeah,
Like kind of just happened that
that
way.
was that's one of my favorite ones I've ever seen on your page. I mean,
That's an interesting story. So as I told you, I do devotion in the morning. So I started my devotion today. It was raining outside. It was a Sunday actually. Started devotion. I watched two sermons that day actually, and I looked out the window and I was like, man, it's like God, I'd really like to get out and do some birding today. And then I kid you not, like moments later, I look out my window and there's a huge flock of cedar waxwings just outside of my window, going back from hollies up to the treetops to eat, back to the hollies. It was hundreds of them. And so in inclement weather, waxwings will actually feed lower
hmm.
because there's nothing around, no predators, things like that, no people. So I saw this and I was like, okay. So I jumped in my car, grabbed my camera, drive like 2 seconds over to the tree that they were, and I just shot those from my car, actually.
Golly.
It was crazy.
That's insane. I mean, just and that I think Brad and I talk about all the time. If you don't have your camera, that's when you're going to see some stuff. But like,
Yep.
so keep it with you all the time, and you might have a car shot like that.
It just so happened that I had one battery charge that day.
Oh man, that's incredible. So I love the quote that you have on your Instagram, and it says, "It's all God's art. I just capture it." Tell me about that. I love that because I see that I'm tracking with you on that.
Yeah.
I love that this is kind of where you're headed. Tell me about that quote.
Well, I just feel like, everything was created by God, and people give me credit for this all the time. Like, oh man, you made that so beautiful. You made that, that's an awesome picture. And I was like, no, I didn't make it. I just, captured it, maybe tweaked it a little bit, but I didn't make it. But I feel like I said, being out in nature, that's as raw as it gets. People say that I'm escaping reality when I'm going out to nature, but nature is reality. So I say I'm escaping to reality.
Hmm.
That's kind of how I look at that. Everything out here is just God's canvas. So anytime I take a picture, I'm just capturing his art, just, showing, like you said, things that people don't normally see.
Mhm.
And I put that because I don't like to really take credit for it, to be honest with you.
Wow. I saw there's a verse that's right next to that. I think it's a passage in John.
Mhm.
What is that verse and why is that one important to you?
So it basically says that everything that was created by God,
Hmm.
and that's exactly that verse was given to me when I came up with that slogan actually, and it
Wow.
just kind of meshed, and I put that under every picture, put that on my websites everywhere because, like I said, it's not my art. I'm just out here doing a service.
Man, and you do such a good job of stewarding those little animals. I love seeing the small birds, but I've told you I want to get you on Lake Gunnersville with me and go find some eagles.
Eagles,
Yeah.
I'm always down for that. Always.
It's so funny. Brad and I were fishing in the bay, and we were watching some birds, and like we were watching an osprey, and then we see this like shadow maker come over, and it's like the size of an eagle compared to an osprey was just insane. I mean,
Yeah,
it was like you're looking at it, it's like, oh no, that's not an osprey. That's a
things are different.
this is different.
One of these is not like the other.
And people don't realize how big eagles are. Just
Oh,
standing on the ground, they're like
yeah,
3 feet.
yeah, yeah. And I've had the chance of photographing some that are in a tree, and like their talons are wrapped around these pine limbs, and the pine limbs are as big as my leg. I mean, think about how,
A picture of so it was an eagle handler. I think he was doing like rehabilitation for an eagle, and he put his fist up to the eagle, and the eagle just he's a large man, so the eagle just grabbed it like he was a child.
yeah,
I was like, I never knew that.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
a fish doesn't stand a chance.
Oh
Like,
no.
no.
I think their
That
talons are what is it, 10 times stronger than a human's grip?
mm,
I remember recently, well, it wasn't recently. I think it was last year, but Auburn, University of Auburn's falconry group that travels around was down here and had, some that they had been rehabbing or some that were, that couldn't be released back into the wild, and then some that they used for the games,
Mm.
the eagles that they used for the games. And so it was just a big exhibition. But it gave such, like you said, perspective when a human, a full, like adult male, is holding this bird, and you see just how big it is when they're right next to each other, and you realize and that thing when it put its wings out,
Oh
like
yeah.
it made that guy look small
Yeah.
because I
What,
mean his wings are like 6 feet,
6 or 7 feet?
or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Golly, it was
What's even more
unbelievable to see
crazy
that
is
perspective.
what's even more crazy to me is that our eagles are not the biggest eagles in the world.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's just some birds are just, I mean, they're dinosaurs basically.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so fascinating to see how they interact and how they like. So I've been able to see these over and over every year whenever we go to Lake Gunnersville and seeing how the adults interact with the adolescent eagles. I mean, the adolescents are almost the same size. They have different coloring,
Yeah.
and they're a little
Hmm.
bit brindley. And um, but seeing how they'll kind of observe them, it's like they'll be up a little higher, and the adolescents will be a little bit lower, and they're doing the fishing, and the adolescents will come in and they'll strike out on a fish. Even though they got all the tools, they don't have the skills yet. But then you'll see the mom or dad come in and they'll get the fish and take it back to the nest. But like watching them teach these adolescent eagles is just fascinating to me. It's funny because some of those osprey will get after an adolescent,
Mhm.
and then here comes mom and dad. They're flying over to run off the osprey.
Yeah, actually, I have speaking of that, I have a friend who lives on, was it Lake Martin, I think it is.
Mhm.
Her and her husband have a dock that they've built out there, and she does photography as well. But they have an osprey nest and eagle's nest right in their backyard.
Oh
And
Wow.
wow.
this awesome photo of an osprey and an eagle fighting, and their wingtips are touching in the air.
Oh
It's one
my
of the
gosh.
best photos I've ever seen.
Did you take
That's
it?
She took it.
Oh, she took it. Wow.
If I would have took that, I probably would have been done photographing.
It doesn't get better than that.
That's it.
I've seen them before. They'll be way off. I mean, even with my big lens, they're just super far off, and they'll be coming in, and they'll have their talons, and they'll be inverted, and their
Mhm.
talons will be kind of at each other,
Mm.
and it's pretty amazing to see, even if it's far off and it's terrible pictures. But like to watch an eagle and an osprey fight in the middle of the air is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't got much time to spend, or I haven't spent much time around eagles and things because they're not usually around where humans are. So
Right.
that goes back to the common birds that I take photos of, trying to make them look common birds and make them look kind of exotic because I mean, like I said, there's beauty in everything.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things to do that is just have patience. Like, of course, I get my courtesy shots where they're just perched on a branch. It's just a bird on a stick, as my favorite photographer called it, a kebab picture, just a
Mm.
bird on a stick. So I try
A
to wait for.
kebab picture.
I don't try to get those unless it's like a really, pretty bird. So I get a few courtesy shots, and then, I try to wait for something that shows that bird's behavior. And most times they always do something, um, fascinating that people don't usually see. And then they're like, oh, I didn't know this bird did. I see this bird all the time. I didn't know it did that. So
Mm.
that's kind of what I try to do. I mean, I would love to be able to, travel the world. I mean, I have a few opportunities coming up, fingers crossed, to travel the world and see, all these exotic birds and things. But right now, I'm just trying to make, the common birds, give them their shine as well.
I
There
love it.
you go. Damien, what did you do in the military? I know there are lots of different jobs. What did you do in the army?
So I did communications, and I was
Uh,
attached to a MP company,
all right, nice. I guess that made a nice segue
law
over into
enforcement.
law enforcement, right? A lot of training overlap there.
Yeah.
How I mean, you see lots of stuff, whether you're in communications and you hear lots of stuff, and especially through law enforcement, I would imagine just as much you see kind of the worst of what humanity is capable of. How has that allowed you to see sort of beauty differently? There's just quite a contrast in that kind of work, and then going out into out into the woods and the wilderness and finding beauty. What's been that? Has that been helpful for you in a
Um,
way? Because I think about it, throws back to a guest that we had on the podcast that wrote Courtney's book about looking at looking up. How birding kind of helped her with grief. And so, is there a thing where it's been beneficial for you through your time through say the military or your police work, to go out and go birding and to see things differently?
I really do believe going through, especially law enforcement, like I said, dealing with homicide, family services. So it's just, like battered women and children, that kind of thing, all kinds of crazy sex abuse and stuff.
Sure.
It made me see, well, it makes me appreciate things more, if that makes sense. And people like with my photos, if you hadn't noticed, they're always a little warmer. And I didn't realize that they were a little warmer. And then I kind of like stepped back. I was like, why do I always, go towards warmer tones? And I finally realized that it's because I'm so thankful for the sunshine. So
Mm,
I'll work night shift, things like that. And just seeing the sunrise some mornings, when some nights, things could have gone sideways, I mean, quickly. Just waking up, seeing the sunrise is just different for me. So like warm tones, I don't know, it just does something for me. And I think it's because of that, being, on night shift, having to get called out to different things and not knowing, am I gonna, come out of this situation, that kind of stuff. But being in those situations definitely made me appreciate things a lot more. And I don't feel like I would actually be, doing what I'm doing if I didn't go through that stuff. Because
mm,
I mean, I'm 33. I've been doing this for what, 2 years. I don't think most 30-year-olds are out, in nature. So uh, I don't know. After dealing with that, the only thing that I really wanted to do was protect my peace. And I'm huge on mental health. I'm huge on peace. So if anything like disturbs my peace, we gotta part ways. But if I didn't go through some of the situations that I went through, I don't feel like I would be doing what I'm doing, if that makes sense. It makes me appreciate like these small things, just going outside, seeing a tufted titmouse just perched, and I'm just like, man, that's beautiful. And
mm.
I don't feel like like I said, if I didn't go through those things, I wouldn't, think that way, if that makes sense.
That's good.
Man, that's I think a lot of people go through life and they miss those small be things of beauty, like the tufted titmouse, the cardinal, the waxwing. I mean, they miss these things because they just fly right by them.
Mhm.
That's being disciplined enough and observant enough to see these things in the wild is, I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, a lot of people, like you said, they're just flying past it. Everyone's in a hurry to go nowhere. I mean, you see now people driving, and you'll be behind someone, they're cutting people off, and all they're doing is pulling in a Chick-fil-A. Like, it's, I don't get it. People don't slow down, people don't look up from their phones, and there's so much out here. Like
Mm.
you said, just noticing like the smallest things, from like the colors on the trees to like I said, like a cardinal, anything. But like I said, that's another reason why I like to make, these common things look fascinating, because it gets people's attention. And it's crazy because, so like I said, I did law enforcement, and when I was on patrol, I patrolled one of the rough areas. So I developed a lot of interesting, people that I talked to and friends and things. And even those people, I mean, like some of the roughest people, they're like, man, that is awesome. And you would never expect it. Um, it's just crazy, but like you said, if you would just slow down sometimes, like I say, it's forward, not fast.
Mm.
Like nothing was ever, built overnight. So if you just slow down, I don't know, things are just beautiful when you slow down.
Yeah.
You're
You know,
saying even a hardened criminal can really appreciate a cardinal picture.
Yeah,
mhm, that's pretty
There's
cool.
something to that, like
it was crazy.
anyone
When I
find the
first
beauty.
started doing it, we had
Mhm.
so a situation happened back in Decatur, where some with the police department. So I went up there to support my family and things like that. And a lot of people that I knew from the city, from policing and stuff, they all came up to me, bro, I'm seeing you taking pictures, bro. That's cool. He's like, I've never been out of nature, but that's cool. But I got that comment so many times from people that I didn't think would ever say, "Oh man, birds are cool." So,
Man, you touched on it just a second ago about mental health, and you're also, in addition to being musician, photographer, all of these things. I mean, you're a Renaissance man, like a true Renaissance man. You also do personal training and a lot of mental health and coaching, not just the weights, but the coaching mentally and being inspirational. Um, Tell us about that journey. Like, what about that drew you into that field?
so when it comes to mental health, as I told you the story about the personal development guy that I came across, that's how everything sparked. So, um, like I said, when I was in law enforcement, my mental health was declining, and I came across this guy on the internet. His name on the internet was Wesley Million Dollar Virgin. That's his name. I think his real name's Wesley Virgin, but he taught personal development, and I'm a huge advocate of everything starts with the mind, like everything. And what is it now? I think it's like over 85% of your inner dialogue is negative self-talk, basically. So just staying positive is a job in itself every day.
Mhm.
So when it comes to staying positive, you have to be careful what you consume. And when I say consume, I don't mean just what you eat. Like it's what you're watching, the people you're hanging around, what you listen to. So me, I take mental health seriously. So if I'm talking about myself, I try to make it positive self-talk, if that makes sense. All I listen to is, I'll play some piano music or listen to piano music, Christian rap, or some kind of motivational podcast. That's literally all I listen to now. Didn't used to be that way because I'm a musician. I like to listen to a lot of different music. I still listen to music, but it's nothing like I used to. I like to keep that, keep that space clear, if that makes sense. Um, but applying that and helping people do that, that helped with personal training as well, because
Mhm.
fitness, it isn't just as I say, a hobby for meatheads. It's a mental thing as well. And like I told you, fitness is actually, I believe fitness has actually saved my life a few times because
Mhm.
I don't really know what I would have done if I didn't have, some kind of positive outlet to always go to. Um,
Mm,
but I try to teach that to my fitness clients as well, that it's a mental thing. And most of them, they kind of grasp it. And when they start, they're like, oh man, just show me what to do. Just show me what to do.
Mhm.
Uh, just show me what to do. And then I start getting all these text messages saying, "Hey man, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm feeling good about myself." He's like, "I told myself good job today." Like I have a few clients that will literally come in and they just, I mean, they're talking bad about themselves the whole time. So one of my female clients, she's bad about it. So I've started making her do burpees every time she says something negative. And now that's like rolled over into her personal life. Like she gives herself compliments when she does anything. And she's like, she'll text me sometimes. She's like, I just told myself good job for so and so. She's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I like it. I was like, yeah, good job. It's a so taking
I
care of
thought she
your
was going to
mental
say she made herself do burpees because she was talking bad about herself and she's all by herself.
health. I should have asked her if she did burpees, actually.
She, I see her on her lunch break. Man, I shouldn't have said that about myself.
Golly. Roll her
Lunch.
eyes and get up and start doing burpees.
Yeah, I feel like it just all ties in. Like I said, everything starts with your mental health. Um, you will believe anything that you tell yourself.
Mhm.
The only voice that you hear in your head, everything you tell yourself, you're gonna believe. So why not be positive? Why not speak life into yourself? Why
Mm,
not say, "Hey, I can do this," or not, "I can't do this," or think about the failures and saying, what if I fail? Well, what if I succeed? What if all these things happen? That kind of thing. So it just takes a little tweaking, but once you get it, I feel like you become a very powerful individual.
Mhm.
Like when you can self-motivate yourself without any outside, help, that's a powerful thing nowadays, especially if you pair that with being self-aware. Because most people are not.
Yeah.
I say it nowadays. Um, that with being self-aware, I feel like you can conquer the world.
What is how does faith play into your coaching world and your personal training? Do you touch on faith matters with your clients, or you let
Um,
them bring that up? How does that work?
if they bring it up, I will.
Yeah.
But most clients, we're in the Bible Belt, so most clients are, people of faith, and they don't mind talking about it. Like I have a client, he's a finance guy. He's been training with me probably about 6 months now. He's lost about 63 pounds, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been training with me for a while, and he went through a very like bad breakup, and now he's got a new lady, and he's gotten back into his faith. And I that deck of cards that I use, I actually bought him a deck of cards as well.
Nice.
He does the same thing, and he kind of ponders on that promise. And instead of going to like the things that he used to do, he goes to his Bible, or he goes to one of those cards. And his girlfriend, she actually they go to church together now. So um, if my clients bring it up, I will, but I'll talk about it. But if they don't, because sometimes I get, uh, foreign clients that aren't, they're different religions. So I don't try to,
Mhm.
push that on anyone, which
Yeah.
most people they know that I'm like, I don't hide that. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm wearing shirts in the gym that say, like I have a Superman shirt and the S is just the S in Jesus.
Mhm.
And like I don't hide at all. Or I have a shirt that says Jesus and a cross, or there's a shirt that says Jesus is my Savior, my Lord, and it's just bright red. Like I don't hide it, so people know. But if they bring it up, I'll talk about it. Or I've had
Yeah.
clients ask me to pray for them. I don't mind doing that as well. But I'm not the kind of guy that kind of like throws a Bible down your throat. Like
Yeah. I think that, we've had people talk about this as being, not a Christian author, but an author who is a Christian. I think that I would say you're a personal trainer who is a Christian, not a Christian personal trainer. It's
like
like
that.
there's a there's a big difference there. It's a little nuanced, but
Yeah.
it's a the goal of I feel like the response of a Christian is to do really well at what you do and
Hmm.
not necessarily just add Jesus to it to make it Christian. It's the way that we do it, the the way in which we strive for excellence in the things that we do. That's a reflection of our response to the Lord. And so, man, well done. Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Makes me think about that. I want to say it's Martin Luther's quote, and I may butcher it, but it's like, it's either him or Calvin that said, the Christian shoemaker shouldn't put little fishes on their shoes,
Mm.
but they should make really good shoes.
Mm.
Rather be excellent at what you do
Mhm.
because you are a Christian, not let's slap a little Christian fish on there and make something subpar, but people will buy it because it's Christian. No, the Christian shoemaker should make an excellent shoe.
Mhm.
And I think we saw that in our one of our past guests that owns Matthews Archery. Those guys, make Matthews bows, and they make some of the best bows in the world.
Mhm.
And he's a believer. He loves the Lord, and he does what he does because he loves the Lord. And so he's not using it as buy my stuff because I'm a Christian. No, buy my stuff because it's really, really good, and I'm
Mhm.
doing it as unto the Lord.
Yeah, that's that servanthood, and I feel
Yep.
like that's what it all comes down to.
Yep.
I feel like we were all given some kind of gift, and it doesn't even have to be, singing or playing guitar or anything like that. It can be something like, problem solving or
Mhm.
something that's not, something you can put your hands on. And I feel like if we use that, like you said, to just do a good job and helping people, bringing joy to other people, like you said, you're just a personal trainer that's a Christian.
Mhm.
And I like that perspective. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 1 Peter 4:10 says to use your gifts to serve others. Whatever you've
Mhm.
been given, use those gifts to serve others as unto the Lord. And I think about that all the time. I'm thinking, man, there's so many talented people who hoard their gifts
Mhm.
and who they do it for personal gain. But man, that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. Anything we do, we should be thinking of others to how can we make the world a better place with the gifts that we've been given and serve those serve the needy, but also serve those who have much, because they sometimes they're the ones that need to see the Lord. It's a little
Watching
harder for
a
them to see the Lord.
watching a sermon the other morning, and it talked something about that and how people think it's selfish to do that, like to use their gifts um, for themselves versus how did he put it? But basically, anyways, they said something was selfish, and his reply was using your gifts or doing things for other people. Uh, it's not thinking of it's not thinking of yourself. How did he put it? I'll have to get that quote because how he said it
It's
was very powerful.
Often
I've
attributed to Lewis is
yeah,
this is that he's talking about humility is not thinking less about yourself, but thinking
Yeah,
about yourself less.
yes,
yeah, and that's what that made me think of.
yep,
But like you said, I feel like I do believe everyone was given a gift at birth. It's just part of your identity, part of who you are. You don't really get to choose, those gifts.
hmm
It's just part of who you are. But if you're using them for, like you said, as a servanthood, I mean, Jesus was a servant. I feel like when you're serving others, doing the thing that you love, or the thing that fulfills you, or the thing that you are blessed with, those gifts, I feel like you're operating in your purpose.
hmm
And when you're operating your purpose, I feel like that's when things really start
So much fulfillment.
falling into
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
yeah.
Damien, you spoke earlier about something you would talk about later, about perhaps an experience in the outdoors. Maybe you were birding or something, and you're
Yeah.
overcome by emotion. What is that like? And what are some of those experiences that you were overcome by emotion, and the Lord did something in you?
So this is the weirdest thing. Like you said, it's really hard to get close to birds, especially out in nature where they're not used to people. So I was out at Moss Rock one day, and I forgot what I was dealing with. I was dealing with a lot at the time, and I actually started crying out there for a little bit. And that morning, I had listened to it was a song that had just come out that's called "Yet." I can't remember her name, Ashley something. And now Maverick City and Chandler Moore has done a spin-off version of it that's good as well. But the first part of it just says, God, don't give up on me yet. I know I'm not your best bet, but I'm trying. And I kind of started singing that song out there to myself, and it was the weirdest thing. So I stopped singing. I just looked up and I was like, God, if you're hearing me right now, send me a sign. And as soon as I said that, I have a video posted on my Instagram. It's a reel actually. An eastern phoebe came and landed on a branch right next to me. I mean, I could have literally pet it. And as soon as I said, God, if you hear me, show me a sign, that Phoebe landed right there. I had my camera here, Phoebe landed here, and I just looked. I was like, okay, what's going on? And then what was weird, that's not even the weird part. Every time I moved, that Phoebe came with me until I got all the way out of the tree line. And then I turned around and it was on this little branch. It was perched perfectly. And it gave me it was like, watch me as I went out of the wood line. And I took two or three pictures of it as well as it flew away off of that branch. Um, but that's probably the craziest experience that I've had out in nature. Like I said, there's a reel on that where the Phoebe's right next to me, and I'm just, sitting there kind of smiling with it. Because I don't know, after that moment, I just felt like everything was okay. It was
Mm,
I really can't explain it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It makes me. There's that story Sean Dietrich tells about every on the anniversary of his father's death. He always sees a gray heron. Remember him telling that
hmm
story? And every that on those days he will always see a heron, and it's just like is that coincidence or is that, the Lord,
Yeah.
the Lord's kindness of not only is he here, is he's taken care of, there's just like that little hint of God's promise,
Hmm.
in the, whether it's that kind of a bird that's, you're like, man, if you're hearing me, send me a sign, or here's a subtle sign, here's a not so subtle sign rather.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. God's signs, they're not always, in your face. And sometimes his signs come as what you think is a failure, but it's actually preparing you for some kind of, catapult. So, uh, interpreting God's signs can be a job in itself. But like you said, is some of them are subtle, some of them are in your face. But as long as you're looking for them, you're usually going to find them.
Hmm. I was just I've heard this phrase before. I didn't know who to attribute it to. I think it's Squire Rushnell who said he calls it a God wink. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's something that's not necessary, but it's just God's little way of saying, I see you. And
Yeah.
I like that a lot. There's I was reading in of the book Unreasonable Hospitality. I don't know if you've read that or not, but um, the author talks about Will Guardia. He talks about um, the grace note, and in music, it's Brad, you would be able to describe this better, but it's something that's really not necessary, but that little embellishment will make a huge difference.
Mm.
Oh
And
yeah.
he puts it in the context of servanthood and hospitality. But like when we think about all the times we see these little grace notes, around us, that Phoebe, this, that the blue heron that Sean sees when he's thinking about his dad, those things aren't necessary. God doesn't have to do those things, but just a little bit of grace and kindness and this little version of embellishment that he allows us to have in our life is so special.
Grace note. I like that.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Hmm.
Well, man, what we've talked a lot about different things, and you've got a lot of irons in the fire, and you're juggling a lot of things. What would be your next adventure?
Um, so like I said, I have an opportunity with the company to do to travel with them and just take photos and teach people while we take photos. So that's the next thing I'm focused on right now, trying to go ahead and land that and get that ball rolling. But we stay in pretty me and the owner and the founder of the company, we stay in contact. Actually, we're speaking again this weekend. And as I mentioned, I'll be going to Texas in April with this company for kind of my interview
Yeah,
or trial run or whatever. So that's the next thing. My next big adventure, and that goes well. That could really snowball into something awesome. So
that's
I'm
so
hoping
cool.
that goes well.
And you do that now. I mean, you take people on birding tours, and you've done Wheeler before, and
Yeah,
you work with the Audubon
the
Society.
Audubon. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, you're that would be right up your alley, man. That'd be pretty sweet.
yeah. That's the dream job. If it was up to me, I'd be traveling the world taking pictures right now.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have you ever, Brian? I don't know if you've watched it either, but on I think it's on Disney Plus, and it's a show on National Geographic that highlights the photographers of National Geographic.
Huh. I haven't
Yeah,
seen that.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. So you sort of see a day, not a day in the life, but a little bit of the background of people that, because when you think about, I mean, how many people have said this to you, Damien? Like, man, that could be in National Geographic, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's like the benchmark for wildlife photography is
Hmm.
National Geographic. I
it
mean,
is.
even when I was a kid, I loved looking at National Geographic, issues and these vivid, unbelievably powerful photos, whether it was animals or people.
Yeah,
Like they do an amazing job at capturing the drama of whatever is going on, whether it's wildlife or humanity. But the series is pretty powerful.
I'm
There
gonna
was
have to.
one guy in particular. He's a Middle Eastern guy, but he does a lot of refugee work, and he captures a lot of photographs of refugees, and they're powerful.
Oh yeah, like with the portraits or like close up, kind of
Yeah,
harsh looking portraits.
they're so powerful, and
Yeah,
he's incredible. But it's a cool series. If you've never watched it before, as a photographer, you would really enjoy seeing sort of the life of these people that capture these amazing photographs.
well, I
For
think you just told me
the
my next show that I'll be watching.
the National Geographic's
You put me onto that,
photographer.
Brad. I watched that series. It was
Fascinating,
incredible. Yeah, it's
fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah,
I mean,
Do you
and
remember
you,
the name of it?
I'd have to look it up, man. I had let me see if I can find it.
yeah,
But it's definitely worth watching. I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Damon.
Okay, sounds
And we'll
good.
link it in the show notes because if there are
yeah.
people out there that are listening to this that are photographers, like it really is inspiring. It's
Yeah.
like, gosh, I would love to do that. To go and to capture, and that's something I do enjoy doing. My father left me his camera, and so that's something that I picked up. Since his passing is photography, and so if you go on my Instagram, there are handfuls of wildlife, photography, and Brian that inspired me in that way, and something that he's done for a long time. And so, man, I love it. But also, as a part of what I do for my church is missions. I love to carry my camera and capture, things that we see on the mission field,
Oh, that's awesome.
and try to capture because there is a way to say, pictures don't do it justice, but they can get close if you're good enough, right?
Yeah.
They can get darn close to capturing the drama of whatever that moment is, and to bring that home for my church to see and go, gosh, that's incredible. I want to go there.
Yeah.
I want to go serve there, those people. So, man, I really appreciate, that art and the power of that art, because the power of, capturing an image, like you said, like you're capturing it, you're not making it. God
hmm
made it. And I love that statement. It's a beautiful statement as a photographer. That is a Christian. That's a really good photographer. Is like, I am trying to put on display the art that God has made,
Yeah.
and I get to be a part of that. And so I think that's beautiful. And man, I love what you do, man, and love that. I also appreciate your service, man. Thankful for people that have served our country,
Cool.
and then to see, you come out of that and not only serve your country, but then serve your community, and then come out of that. And now you're serving people, helping people not only get physically fit but mentally fit. So, man, you're clearly you have a servant's heart, man. I'm grateful for men like you, and thankful for what you're doing in our communities, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I really do.
Damion, one last question. How can people follow you? How can people kind of see your work? And if you had any kind of advice for someone who would be interested in getting into birding or photography, what would you give them?
So you can follow me on my Instagram or my Facebook. It's just my name, Damion Bankhead Photography or Damion Bankhead Photos. My website is damionbankheadphotography.com. And I'm actually tired right now because I stayed up all night creating a second online store on Etsy. So that's Damion Bankhead Photos.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I stayed up to like 1:30 doing that. But if you're looking to get into photography, um, my thing is to learn the rules of photography, but don't let them box you in. Because I still get people, older people that are traditional photography people that say, oh, well, that editing ain't photography, or, well, you should have used the rule of thirds, or you don't have to do that. The beautiful thing about art is that it's art. You don't have to, it doesn't have to follow rules. It just has to look good to you. And when I tell people that are scared to, put themselves out there with their photography, they're already taking pictures. You have to think that now there are 8 billion people in the world. Somebody's going to like your art. So just put it out there. But don't let those rules box you in. And they're exactly right. Editing and things, that's not photography. That's art.
That's
That's
art.
what makes photography stand out. So you develop your style of editing, you stick to it, and you stand your ground, especially when those because they're going to come. I promise you.
hmm
They're going to say, "Oh, this isn't art," or "No, you shouldn't be doing this," or "No, you ruined this picture." Just don't listen to those people.
Wow, good word, man. Well, we'll post your Instagram and your website and your Etsy in the show notes for
Yeah,
people to have. So
absolutely, man.
just
Appreciate that.
thank you so much, man. Brad's going to close us out here in a second, but man, thank you for being on and thank you for just taking time to hang out with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I hope folks do follow your Instagram feed because it is filled with beauty, and it will ultimately, I think, cause people to go, "Wow, man, praise the Lord." Hopefully, it'll draw people to recognize, the heavens declaring the glory of the Lord, right? And not only is it, God's taking care of creation, but He's also giving us beauty to be filled with awe. And I think we could use a lot more awe
Yeah.
in our lives today. And so, man, your work is helping us to do that. And as we hope it inspires people, maybe there's some young aspiring photographers listening to this episode that just get out there and take pictures, man. Make some art, find some things that you think is, and you find beautiful and that fills your heart with hope and fills your man, just fills your mind with beauty and causes you to praise the Lord. So, man, I appreciate that. We hope it inspires people to get out there and write some stories, to share some adventures in the place we love to call the Storied Outdoors.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take some time to leave us a review, or better yet, share it with a friend. We hope these stories encourage you to write your own stories and share your own adventures in the Storied Outdoors.